Hi everyone, I'm Andrea, editor of the blog, and I'm here today with Professor Arun Sundararajan from the New York University, who's going to talk to us about the sharing economy. Professor, how will this on-demand sharing economy change the business landscape?
I think we've already started to see it change the business landscape. We've had new crowd-based models disrupt mobility and disrupt short-term accommodation. Airbnb is now the world's largest provider of short-term accommodation with twice the capacity of Marriott Starwood. Uber is valued at levels that are comparable to a large car manufacturer like Daimler. And so I think what we're going to see is the invention of new business models, new ways of organizing economic activity that are dramatically going to shrink the size of the firm in terms of the number of full-time employees they have and create millions of providers to these platforms who are really providing the goods, the services, and the things that customers are paying for.
So what role for the government then? Will we see a deregulation trend?
I think that yes and no. So I actually think that regulation as we know it today will change significantly, and a lot of our approaches to regulation will go away. But what regulation is also likely to change. What I mean by that is that we historically think of regulation as something that the government formulates and implements. Regulation in the future is going to be much more of a partnership with intermediaries. So the city of Luxembourg partnering with Airbnb, or the city of London partnering with Uber, and where they jointly formulate the rules, and a lot of the enforcement of the rules is then delegated to the platform. And so the variety of regulation increases because you're dealing with millions of small providers and not just a few large companies. But also the entity that is tasked with the regulation also shifts away from government regulators and towards more self-regulatory organizations. People who hold the data will actually be executing the regulations.
Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. So we have individuals who will use platforms as an intermediary to run their own businesses in the future.
That's right.
How will that change the social contract as we know it, especially in Europe?
I think that is perhaps the biggest public policy question of the next 2 decades, because over the last 100 years, we have optimized the social contract, stability, workplace protection, a sense of career trajectory, a sense of community from your company, a feeling that children are not working anymore, there are limits on the work day, there are minimum wages, there's workplace safety. All of this has been optimized for a world where people work full-time for a large institution. So we have to completely refashion the social contract to be suitable for the workforce of tomorrow, which will be dominantly independent individuals running tiny businesses through platforms. What exactly we need to do depends on the country that you're in. For example, Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Finland are better equipped because they already have a strong government-provided safety net. And so the funding is already there. In a country like the United Kingdom, on the other hand, you have to start to think about new ways of funding what your full-time employer used to fund. And we have to change labor laws significantly to afford the same kinds of protections for independent workers that we have created for full-time employees. So in many ways, you start to think of the individual as not being a provider of labor and talent to a large company who then supports them, but as an independent business that perhaps even uses talent that comes from a machine. And you start to sort of think about what is the right social contract to construct for someone where you don't have another institution involved, but where there is a lot more independence.
Well, thank you so much for your insights, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.